Tonight on People of the South, we present Chimurenga Man, starring the president of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe.
When there's criticism and things like this, is it water off a duck's back to you after all these years in politics, or does it sting? Does it hurt a bit?
No, but well, there's certain things now just bump, as it were, bump off, and you see, just dismiss it and say, well, the usual thing. I mean, if people say you are a dictator, they've said so yesterday, they'll say so, you know, they are saying this merely to tarnish you and diminish and demean your status. Then you don't pay much attention to it, you know, it's their politics. And most of it has been wasted, you see. British papers, British press, Labour-inspired.
Do you think it was a campaign?
The Conservatives are greater friends, just imagine. Really? As we fought the struggle, it was the Labour Party which was a friend of ours. But after independence, you find it's the Conservatives who behave much better. And you can deal with them, they tell the truth. You know, their word means quite a lot. Whereas with Labour, I mean, who can ever believe what Mr. Blair says? Here we called him Blair.
Upon his release, Mugabe joins the liberation struggle. And after almost 15 years of combat, all warring parties head to London for the Lancaster House talks in 1979. The land issue is a major stumbling block in the negotiations, and Mugabe signs only after the British and American governments agree to provide the funds to buy the land from white farmers on a willing buyer, willing seller basis.
Lancaster House. It was on the issue of compensation, whether they would compensate all the farmers. They said they didn't have that much money. We would have to do something ourselves. We said no. We couldn't pay. We couldn't tax our people, our poor people, in order to get them the land which was taken from them without any payment having been made.
You were satisfied with their promises?
And the issue of reconciliation.
But as the negotiations ended, you felt we struck an honourable deal.
But with Mrs. Thatcher, she you could trust her. Yeah, you could definitely trust her.
Yes.
But of course, what happened later was a different story with the Labour Party and the Blair and company. Those you could never trust.
Really?
You couldn't compare them to Thatcher and the others.
You were very reconciliatory when you came into power as Prime Minister and gave speeches saying that we're all brothers, white and black, we must unite and so.
Yes, we said so even here.
If you could go back in time, what would you do differently in terms of the Lancaster House Accords? Was it a precursor to land reform or land invasions? Was it the cause, if you like, that deal and the frustrations that came with it later?
Well,
would you do anything differently if you could go back?
No, it's except that one would never trust the British system, absolutely.
Why is that, Mr. President?
Because of the change of policy. If we had been dealing with the Conservatives, we would never have had to grab the land at the end of the day, because something different had happened in Britain.
And how did things change?
Labour, the Conservatives were defeated at the election that took place, and Labour won that election. In came Mr. Blair. I met him, and he said, "Oh no, leave this matter to me. I have a..." So more than a year went by, and the 2 years went by. Then we got a letter from a lady. What's her name now? Claire Short, yes. To say, no, the land question does not fall within the precincts of their policy of poverty alleviation. They were that dismissive. And people were angry. They would say, there is Britain now, you see, refusing to uphold its own side of, obligations. And who are we to continue to trust it? So the war veterans started. We'll take the land. And I said, yes, they won't be arrested. But what we'll not do is to recognize that their act is a legal act. No, they are demonstrating. We will look at the land which they have seized and see whether it is land we can and then acquire properly, legally, under the law. And
so
this
you
is
wanted
what
it
we
to
did.
be done in an orderly
Yes.
fashion.
Although the war veterans, were that rough.
Right.
But actually, we followed that up with an orderly mechanism of acquiring the land in a proper way.
Because it suddenly went from 5 in a day to land grabs all over the country.
All everywhere. Yes, and it was each man unto himself and God for us all. And yes, seizures everywhere. And
could you have controlled that? Because the West, in a way, blamed you, didn't they, as the instigator?
But they never blamed Blair. Do you notice the whole way through there is not a single criticism of the fact that Blair, became irresponsible, refused to take up. You see, to assume the obligation which Britain should have properly assumed. But, of course, we are Africans, and of course you get criticism in the press. Mugabe is doing that. After all, this is our land, you see. We did not need to negotiate taking it back, you see. But here we are negotiating with the British, and there is a Britain now who is refusing to abide by the agreement at Lancaster. And what we expected, what Blair wanted was that we should now, as it were, reverse ourselves. And I suppose he no longer wanted the land acquisition program to continue. Good.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Right.
That's wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't take up too much time of your day.
Yeah, well, it has been a lot of time, but,
Yes.
but since we have not been together.
That's it.
That's it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Join us next week when I interview First Lady Grace Mugabe and have lunch with the Mugabe family. Till then, may your gods be with you. Good night.